It's really hard out here right now if you're looking to either rent or purchase a house. And we get this question all the time. How much house can I afford? Well, today in this video, what we're going to cover is how much house can you actually afford, both from a rental perspective or if you're looking to purchase. So what we're going to do today is we're going to run an affordability analysis for both renting a house or for buying a house based on two potential incomes. By the way, if you're new here, my name is DJ. I'm a realtor here in New Jersey. Our channel covers new videos every week about buying houses, selling houses, or investing in real estate. So if you have questions about any of that, I'm sure there's a video here on the channel that can address it. So let's jump right in. So first, let's address the situation. It's really hard right now to rent or buy a house because you're being pulled in two different directions. Normally, when the housing market is hot, meaning it's a seller's market and there's a lot of buyers out there, rental market is not as hot and it's a little bit less expensive to rent a property. But right now you have both. You have a housing market that's on fire and you have a rental market that's up 10% year over year. So if you really want to move or you really need to move, you're stuck being pulled in both different directions. So what we decided to do today was to run two different income potentials, both for rental and for purchase. So option A is going to be Mike. And let's say he makes $50,000 a year. Now, the reason we picked $50,000 a year is because that's really close to what the median income is in the entire United States. Based on 2022, it's about $51,000. Option B is going to be Jess, who makes $125,000 a year. And the reason for the big gap is we want you to see what the difference is if you have that kind of money or that kind of money. So let's take Mike. Mike makes $50,000 a year and we're going to talk about his gross income. So again, the difference between gross and net is gross is before taxes, net is after. So Mike makes $50,000 a year. If we break that down into a monthly salary, it's $4,166. Now, if we use the rule of 30, that would mean 30% of $4,166 is $1,250. So according to the rule of thumb, it would mean that Mike shouldn't spend more than $1,250 a month for rent. So now let's pivot to Jess. So Jess makes $125,000 a year, which if we take that and break it down into her monthly salary, it's $10,416. Now, the rule of thumb means 30% of that is what she should max out on her rental. So if we take 30% of $10,416, it's $3,125. That tells you what the rule of thumb should say Jess should spend on her rental per month. Now, admittedly, the rule of thumb is a very conservative mechanism to figure out how much you should spend on rental, but there's a couple flaws with it as well. So first of all, it's calculating based upon your gross, not your net. So it's not calculating any of your expenses. So if you are really a saver and your friend spends $800 a month on a Tesla, goes on vacations all the time, has 12 streaming services, and has a Lululemon and Starbucks addiction, what those results are going to yield for you versus your friend are going to be very different in what you can actually afford every month to make sure that you can actually save money. So footnote here, if you're renting right now and you're trying to save up a down payment to actually purchase a house in the next 12 months, 24 months, or 36 months, having a really flashy lifestyle to impress your Insta friends is not going to get you there. Having a Lululemon and a Starbucks addiction and going on fancy vacations is going to make it even harder for you to save money every month, because when you're on the lower end of the earning ladder, it's really hard to be able to save money every month to begin with. So any money you're putting towards expenses that you don't really need is just going to prolong the time it takes for you to get into the housing market, where you're missing out on appreciation in a market like this where properties are going up 10% every year. Okay, so that covers rentals, but now let's run the same analysis of affordability for those same two income levels, but if you wanted to buy a house. Before we do that, let's go through the two different ways that both you or a lender might determine how much you can afford and whether you're a viable candidate for them to give you money. The first of which is called the 28 and 36 rule. The second one is called the 30-33 rule. So when a bank is looking at you as a candidate as to whether or not they feel comfortable lending you money, they use something called the DTI ratio, which stands for debt to income ratio. Very simply put, it means how much money are you looking to borrow versus how much money do you actually make every month, so that they can look at that ratio and feel confident whether you're going to be able to pay that back every month. Now, of the first two scenarios that we look at for affordability, the first one's called the 28 and 36 method. The 28 there is a front-end DTI, which means they're looking at simply housing. So how much percentage of your income every month is going to be dedicated to just going towards your housing cost? And is that a comfortable measure for them to feel like you're going to pay it back? So let's take Mike. Mike, again, makes $50,000 a year, which is $4,166 a month. Let's say Mike wants to take a loan out to buy a house. Now they're going to look at, okay, how much money is this going to cost Mike every month as a percentage of the $4,166 that he makes every single month in income. And the rule is 28%. That lender's not going to want to see more than 28% of your $4,166 a month that you make go towards your housing payment. Now, in reality, the lender has the ability to push that limit all the way up to potentially 36%, depending upon the type of mortgage that you have. But 28% is super conservative. If you can stay under that limit, you'll be in really good shape. So the second part of the 28 and 36 rule is the and 36. And what that relates to is the back end debt to income ratio calculation. And what that means is they're going to look at your gross monthly income, but instead of just calculating your monthly mortgage payment as a percentage of that, they're also going to look at all of your other expenses that you have every single month. So car payments, student loan payments, anything else you have as a recurring expense that you're going to get billed every month, plus your mortgage. And they want to see that that percentage is not higher than 36% of your gross income per month. So again, let's take Mike. Mike makes $50,000 a year, and that's $4,166 a month. They're going to look at what 36% of $4,166 is and make sure that all of your debt that you have to pay back on a monthly basis is not higher than that. Now, in reality, lenders have the ability, depending upon the type of loan product you're going for, to push that limit up to 43% or even as high as 50%. But again, if you're super conservative here and you stick to 28% with just your housing as part of your monthly income and 36% for all of your expenses, you're going to be in a really good position. Same thing with Jess. Jess makes $125,000 a year, which is over $10,000 a month. They're going to want to calculate 36% of her $10,000 that she makes every month and make sure that her mortgage payment and all of her other expenses, including student loans and car payments, don't add up to more than 36%. The second way you can do your calculation of what your affordability is to buy a house is called the 30-33 rule. The first 30 is 30%. So remember, again, we were talking about rentals. If you look at your monthly gross income, you shouldn't spend more than 30% of it. This is the same rule. So again, if we look at Mike, who makes $50,000 a year, his monthly gross is $4,166, and 30% of that is $1,250. That means from the 30-33 rule on the first part, 30%, Mike shouldn't spend more than $1,250 on his housing costs as part of his income. So again, these calculations are the same as we did during the rental. So Jess makes $125,000 a year, which means $10,416 a month gross, which calculates $3,125 per month. She should be dedicating that or less towards her housing if she's using the 30-33 rule. So the second part of the 30-33 rule is another 30%. And this is stating that you should have 30% of the value of the house you're purchasing saved in liquid assets before you purchase it. I'm going to throw up a red flag here because I don't think this is realistic. The 30-33 rule is very conservative, but as a first-time home buyer who's moving out of a rental, how likely is it that you actually have 30% to put down as a down payment? Now, I understand here, the average down payment that most people in the United States shoot for on a home is 20%. The reason for that is, generally, if you put less than 20% down as a down payment on a property, the bank is going to charge you PMI, or private mortgage insurance. This is an additional fee every month that the bank is going to put on top of your mortgage payment to ensure that they have a comfort level that if you default on the loan, they're going to be able to foreclose and still be able to pay the loan off. Now, there are loans out there now where you can have no PMI at 10% or 15% down. But always know, if you don't have PMI and you're putting down less than 20% on a house, your rate is going to be higher. They're going to find a way to make sure that they're charging extra money to make them more comfortable. So the last part of the 30-33 method is the 3, and that's making sure that whatever you're purchasing is no more than 3 times what your annual gross salary is. So again, let's think about this. Mike makes $50,000 a year. That's stating that he should not purchase a property that's more than $150,000. If you're in New Jersey, that doesn't exist. If it does, it's probably on fire and in a dumpster. The second option is Jess. Jess makes $125,000 a year, and if we 3x that, that takes her to $375,000. Still a hard thing to purchase here in New Jersey, but in other parts of the country, that's certainly attainable. So that covers Mike and Jess, but let's talk about New Jersey, which is where I do business and where a lot of you might be watching from. So if we look at New Jersey, the median salary here in New Jersey is $85,000 and change based upon 2022. We also look at the average home sale price in New Jersey based on 2022. It's $477,600. So if we do that calculation and say, okay, what percentage of that person's income who makes $85,000 a year to buy a $477,600 house, it's 5.61. So the rule of 3 would say that they shouldn't be able to afford that house. But in order to buy in this market right now, people are having to stretch way farther than the 30-33 rule will allow them to do. So that gives you Mike and Jess and what their affordability is. But I'm hoping to have empowered you here so that you don't just go online and Google an affordability calculator and put your numbers in there. It's so much more impactful for you to have control over your finances and really understand what you can afford, because even calling a bank, they can spit out a number and tell you what you can afford, but that's very different than what you actually want to afford. And you don't want to be house poor, right? People want to still be able to take vacations and live the lifestyle that they want. So sometimes what you can afford is actually more than what you want to pay. Now, if you want to take the next step to actually buy a house and figure out how much can I afford, who do I talk to, what are the steps I need to take in order to make sure I can purchase a house in the next 12 or 18 months, then I've got you covered. We're going to drop a new video very soon covering what those steps are. So make sure to like and subscribe so you get notified when that video drops. So if you're ready now, even better. Click the link below down in the description and set up a call with my team and me. We'd love to help you with this. We're super appreciative. I hope you found this video helpful. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.